My pumpkin craft is back this week with part 2. Now, typically at this point I should be saying that you should go look at part 1 first before you watch this one, but actually regarding the process of this craft, part 1 was not that important since most of it was a complete failure. Although it was still a fun video and there was cat moments. But even though the craft in that video was a complete failure, I do think it's still a fun video and my viewers seem to enjoy it, so you can watch it if you want. This is why I should never be in the advertising field, because I'm too honest. I'm just like, you can go watch it if you want, but just know that the craft is horrible. Oh well, there will be a lot more progress in this part. So let me give you a quick recap in case you didn't watch that video. So I'm creating this pumpkin sketch that I made as a full sculpture. Well, I was originally going to sculpt the pumpkin as well, but we all know how that went. So, but I did sculpt these two that are supposed to be sitting on top of the pumpkin. My plan for this craft was to make a pumpkin with two of my characters, Dove and Spook, sitting on top of it and using the stem of the pumpkin as a little table. In the last part we ended up with a base-coated store-bought pumpkin. Store-bought pumpkin. But I think that it's now good that we take a break from focusing on the pumpkin to instead look at the mini characters that I made on top of the pumpkin. Now what you are seeing here is what I already sculpted in the last part, but I will be adding some things to Dove because she's looking like a bowling ball right now. So we're gonna add her hat, beak, and some other stuff, and I'm also going to paint these. Starting with sculpting the beak, I first rolled a tiny ball of the terracotta clay and then wet her face with just some water, and it's actually really good. I really like that in terracotta you can add things once it's already dry just by adding some water. It kind of reactivates the clay, I guess. I don't know if that's the correct terminology for terracotta clay, I don't know, but I really like that I'm able to add stuff even after it's already dry. That's really helpful for adding small details like the beak. Anyway, I just put the ball on the face and then sort of spread it out, and as I was spreading it out on the face, you can see that it actually created this small beak shape just because I was spreading it out in this kind of motion. So that was really good. I was sort of nervous that I would never get the beak on there because I know that it's really tiny and difficult to sculpt, but I got it and I'm really happy with how it looked in the end. So I just smoothed out the beak a little bit more to blend it into the rest of the sculpture, and then I started with sculpting the hat. Now I was worried that this might actually crack, and I guess it kind of did, but I covered the cracks up with acrylic paint because this will come in handy in the rest of the video as well. But acrylic paint, since it's basically plastic once it dries, you can actually fill up small gaps with it. I started sculpting the hat by first making this very tiny plate shape, and it was really thin, and I mean, in this stage it was really difficult to get it to stay together. I don't think that this terracotta is specifically made for these kind of tiny sculptures. I think something like Fimo clay is more suitable for this, but this is really cheap and I think that it's a really good option because you can get a really big pack which just like it was maybe €4 or something like that. And I added the top part of the hat and just smoothed it out with some water. After I was done sculpting the hat, I actually wanted to add some accessories to it, and I was first thinking about sculpting two big berries to go on top of it, or I don't know, just one or something like that. It's actually like a berry on top of the hat because I thought maybe that would be kind of cute, but then I thought that it just kind of looked really weird. Maybe it would have looked better with paint, but I did decide to take that off and do something else instead. Wink wink. If you saw my latest video, then you might already know what I'm talking about. but that's for later. I did also sculpt these two tiny bowls, and this candle to go on the table later. Then I moved on to painting Spook. Actually, the paints that I use, you can see them in the background. They are these blues paints that I've been using for my entire life pretty much. These are the only acrylic paints that I've used at home. So this is just what I'm used to, but they're actually kind of difficult to mix. I don't know why, but the pigments in these paints are kind of weird. I feel like the black is not entirely black. It has some blue in it. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but I've gotten sort of used to mixing them, so I kind of know how they work. I just mixed some red and black to make dark brown for Spook's leather bag that he is wearing because he's shy. Also, if you're wondering where his bird feet are, they are actually under him. I thought that he's kind of perched up with his legs underneath him, so that's why his bag is also kind of scrunched up, because he's supposed to be sitting. I don't know, Spook is such a weird character. I guess I could tell you a little bit about Spook while I'm painting him. I have been kind of bad at explaining my characters when I have made videos about them. I haven't really told you much about their personalities or their hobbies or anything like that, so I guess I'll tell you right now. So I'll tell you about my homeboy Spook. He's an incredibly chill and a little bit shy guy who mostly enjoys being in the quiet candlelight, writing the most amazing works of art you've ever read in your life. Since he really enjoys writing, he and his friend Dove, who I will talk about more later, have actually made their own little newsletter. So Spook writes each page and Dove takes pictures for the pages. Together, they are quite the dream team, and it is in fact difficult to talk about one without talking about the other. That is how close friends they are. Spook also has the survival instincts of a capybara, meaning that you could pick up the guy and he won't even blink an eye. Well, to be fair, even if he did blink, you wouldn't really see it. However, despite his low survival instincts, somehow he's been able to travel all around the world, which is why he is able to write such great stories, because he has met so many people and heard so many stories. Also, those arts that you just saw were actually made by two people called Wushi and Equinox, and Wushi actually made out of his way to make these 3D models in Blender, I think, and it just looks so amazing. I love how he's on top of the books, it's so cute and I love it. So thank you so much to both of those. I will put both of their links in the description. Then I moved on to painting Dove, and their color schemes are supposed to complement each other, which is why I used the same brown for her dress as well. However, Dove is not actually wearing her typical uniform, and this is just an autumn version of that, so that's why it looks a little bit different than the arts that I've made. Now I can talk about Dove. So about Dove, she also has quite a reserved personality, just like Spook, but unlike Spook, she is not very chill because she is very easily spooked. Don't get me wrong, she is calm as well, but she can be quite cautious about her surroundings. She is slightly smaller in size than Spook, but unlike him, she doesn't feel the need to hide under a big leather bag, which is why she is wearing a more extravagant style with a big hat and high-collared dress. Dove has quite the eye for photography and artistic things in general. She is very good at making the people she's taking pictures of calm and pose in good ways. Or something that photographers do, I don't know. She is very good at seeing the little things and creating great compositions for her photos. Despite her cautious personality, she does have a calming effect on the people around her, which is why she's able to get such good photos of her subjects since they always relax around her. Maybe it's that sweet looking face that really gets people to have their guard down. I want to apologize that I actually painted the rest of the details off camera because, like I've said, I had struggled with getting my camera in the correct position so that I could film it easily. while having everything that I'm doing in frame. So sorry about that. It is a big goal for me to one day be able to film the process in more detail, because when I was doing the Barbara doll as well, I didn't film the making of the face because I just had difficulty filming that. To be fair, back then I didn't even have a tripod, so that's what was giving me a really hard time. So it has gotten a little bit better. Also, here you can really see the details, and I love how Spook turned out. I think that the leather really looks like leather. I don't know how I was able to get it so good. I just kind of smeared some paint on it, and I was trying to get that kind of natural look. And also, because the clay didn't dry perfectly, it's not perfectly smooth. It has some cracks. It actually looks like there are some scratches in the leather, which I think look really good. And I think that the small ink pouch also looks really good. And I think that once I add the coil as well, it's going to look really good. It was kind of difficult to paint out the crevices of Dove's face because the second eye is really tiny, and it's in between the hat and the scarf, and it was difficult to paint, but I think that I got it pretty good. At least the first eye was fine. And you may be wondering, where is Dove's hair? Because one of her defining character design details is that she has this really big hair, and I'm going to add that later, so you'll see. I didn't forget it. She just bald for the moment because I'm going to have to glue the hair on, and I want to first varnish her before I do that. Overall, I think that the miniatures turned out really good. Now moving on to the pumpkin, I actually found this pumpkin that is a real pumpkin, but it is a decorative pumpkin, so it's not one that you can actually eat. And it is sort of dried up, but I wanted to use it for reference to get the pumpkin looking kind of realistic. So I brought it on the table with me, and I wanted to color match it exactly. You can see here that there are these little cracks where I glued the stem. Because I sculpted a new stem in the last part, you can see that when I glued it, there are actually these small cracks because I had to dry the stem separately from the pumpkin, which I think caused it to sort of shrink. Well, it would have probably shrunk anyway if it was on top of the pumpkin, but the point is that there are cracks and I need to fill them up. And like I was talking about before, this can be actually done with acrylic paint. So you'll see that later. You may see that this pumpkin is not actually orange like it was in my original sketch, but I thought that this would actually look better and contrast with the characters a little bit better, because the Spook and Dove have this kind of monochromatic color scheme usually. I mean, it's sometimes sort of black and white, but then it ranges in sepia tones. I originally planned for the stem to also be brown, but I felt like it's not going to look good since Spook is also dark brown and Dove's dress is dark brown, so I felt like they're going to blend in too much together, which is why I decided to make a lighter pumpkin since the stem is also going to be light. Now again, this pumpkin is not very realistic, but neither is birds wearing clothes, so it's okay. The first attempt at painting the pumpkin turned out way too yellow, so later I added more red to it. And now I started filling the gaps as well. This means that there is more paint, it is a thicker layer because it's filling so much, so it took longer to dry, but that was fine because it turned into just plastic, and this also means that the stem will stick better onto it in case the glue wasn't good enough. You can see here that my second attempt at mixing the paint was much closer to the actual pumpkin. And this is again where it's going kind of downhill. Well, it's certainly not as bad as the first part, but you'll see what happened. I started by first adding some shading to the ridges of the pumpkin. Now, typically on a pumpkin, the ones that I've seen, the ridges are actually not that deep. So it definitely maybe doesn't look very realistic to make the ridges look even deeper by adding darker paint in the middle, but oh well. That was definitely not the worst artistic choice I've made, definitely seeing the ones that I made going forward. I also decided to add a gradient to the bottom of the pumpkin, so it's a little bit more yellow at the bottom. This was actually an idea that I've had for a really long time now, to do a gradient on the pumpkin, so I'm happy that I got to do it. Even though the execution maybe wasn't as good as I would have liked, but I still have time to fix it up, so it's okay. And now this is where it really started going downhill, because I went kind of crazy with the scratch marks and every little imperfection that I painted on. I made them way too dark, and the pumpkin just kind of looks dirty now. So I was worried about that leaf that I painted looking dirty, but I had seen nothing yet because this pumpkin is so dirty looking. I don't know why I'm making everything look so dirty. I don't know, I'm not really used to painting texture on things, so I guess I'm just doing it overboard because I've never really done it before. Usually when I paint an object, I just paint it a plain color, so now I've gone too far in the other direction. But anyway, that is all that I have for this part. In the next part I will fix up the pumpkin and show you the rest of the details and everything. I hope that you will come see the third part as well once it is finished. I actually really enjoy doing these crafts in parts. I think that it's fun to explain the process in more detail, and I really like doing it this way. I don't feel like there's as much pressure on me, but please let me know what you think in the comments. I don't have much more for this video, but I want to just thank everyone for the really positive reception on my last video that I did. I was so happy to hear that everyone liked that video, because I was worried that it was going to be like too long or too boring or whatever, but I'm so happy that you liked it. But anyway, I hope you liked this video as well and that you will come see the next video, and bye bye.